Morning and assalamu alaikum, dear students of class 7th. I hope all of you are fine. This is your history lesson. As you know, we are studying the history of the kings in the subcontinent, and in this regard we have we have learnt about especially the Sultanate of Delhi, in which we have learnt about various kings like Balban, Jalaluddin Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah, and then the end of the Sultanate. After that chapter, we will move to another dynasty, and that empire was known as the Mughal Dynasty. This is on page 78 of your book. So, this is our today's lesson, today's chapter, the early Mughals. In this chapter, we will we will learn about the various Mughal kings who came to rule the India at that time. Okay, so we will start with the first Mughal king, which is Zahiruddin Babur. Okay, seventh class. First of all, a little bit of introduction to the Mughal dynasty. Because after the end of Sultanate of Delhi, this was the dynasty which was at its peak and was considered as the most brilliant empire of the world. Mughal dynasty actually lasted from 1525 to 1857. Although from 1707 they had little power and their power decreased with the passage of time, but this Mughal dynasty was considered as one of the most brilliant empire of the world. Mughals were considered as excellent administrator. They had built certain organizational structure which lasted for next 300 years. They were more interested in art, music, architecture, and literature, and they neglected science and technology, but they took more interest in art. You know that they have built buildings, various mosques and like libraries and various forts as well, but they neglected science and technology. The result of all this was India was far behind than the West, because India had resources at that time, great resources, but because they were not interested in science and technology, so they fell further behind the West, and because of this they remained in a kind of a medieval world. So although it was considered as one of the world brilliant empire when it was at its peak from 1525 to 1857, but 1707 में इसका downfall consider शुरू हो गया था, because East India Company आ गई and they started to intervene in the organization of the country, administration of the country. They took interest in art, music, architecture, literature, etc. The kings lived their luxurious life, and in that luxurious lives आर्ट, म्यूज़िक, आर्किटेक्चर, लिटरेचर को वो ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट लेते थे. इंस्टेड ऑफ हैविंग यूनिवर्सिटीज़ और कॉलेजेस, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, दे एम्फसाइज्ड ऑन आर्ट, म्यूज़िक, आर्किटेक्चर एंड लिटरेचर. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस क्या हुआ, इंडिया के रिसोर्सेज होने के बावजूद इंडिया बहुत बैकवर्ड रहा बिकॉज ऑफ द पॉलिसी ऑफ द मुगल किंग्स. Okay, class, this is the will of Babur. You can see in this will, it's written very clear that the king must be above the nobles and they must obey them. That all nobles should obey the king, they should not rebel against the king. This was the first point. अगर ऐसा होगा तो किंगडम एम्पायर जो है वो स्ट्रांग होगी, अदरवाइज जो किंग्स रिबिलियंस फेस करते हैं वो वीक किंग्स होते हैं. ओके, द एम्पायर शुड बी यूनाइटेड बाय अंडरस्टैंडिंग द टॉलरेंस, नॉट बाय फोर्स, no killing of cows, no temple smashing, and no Sunni Shia quarrels. It means Babur knew at that time that there was a community living in India with variety, like Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs were living there. So उसने tolerance का lesson दिया. Tolerance against each other's religion, tolerance against not using the force, killing of cows जो कि हिंदूज के साथ बहुत बड़ा इशू है. टेम्पल स्मैशिंग इससे पहले होती रही बाय वेरियस किंग्स. शिया सुन्नी क्वारल्स रहे. सो बाबर वाज ऑफ द ओपिनियन कि टॉलरेंस के साथ रहना चाहिए विद ईच अदर. इस तरह इन दिस वे यू विल बी यूनाइटेड, एंड इफ़ यू आर यूनाइटेड तो फिर आपको कोई भी फॉरेन फोर्स जो है, एलियन फोर्स जो है, बाहर से आने वाला कोई भी किंग आपको डिफीट नहीं कर सकता. एंड द थर्ड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज़ द डिफरेंट पीपल should be judged according to their own community law. हिंदू मुस्लिम्स रह रहे हैं तो हिंदुओं के लिए हिंदूज़ का लॉ होना चाहिए और मुस्लिम्स के लिए मुस्लिम्स का लॉ होना चाहिए. सो दिस वाज द विल ऑफ द बाबर, जो कि बाद में आने वाले बहुत से किंग्स ने इंक्लूडिंग द सन ऑफ द बाबर अडॉप्टेड. And in this will he outlined his future goals for his empire, and this was to become the general plan followed by the later Mughal emperors. So ये एक तरह का बाद में आने वाले मुगल किंग्स के लिए एक जनरल प्लान था which was known as Babur's will. Class 7th, the first topic of this chapter is Babur. Babur came to India as the founder of the Mughal dynasty. He was the first Mughal king, and his full name was Zahiruddin Babur. Zahiruddin Babur was actually a prince, one of the prince of he was a prince of one of the small state in of Central Asia. Okay, and he was the descendant of both Chinggis Khan and Temur. He was the descendant of both Chinggis Khan and Temur, because from the father side his grandfather was Temur, and from the mother side he belonged to a Mongol family which is of Chinggis Khan, who was having one of the world largest state at that time and powerful state at that time, जो मंगोल्स की स्टेट होती थी. सो एक तरफ उसके फादर जो थे वो तैमूर से, जिसने बहुत अरसा रूल किया और लेटर ऑन इन्होंने सैयद डायनेस्टी भी रखी, एंड देन चिंगेज़ जो खान जो कि एक मंगोल रूलर था. सो जो ब्लड लाइंस हैं वो बाबर की फ्रॉम फादर साइड एंड फ्रॉम द मदर साइड दोनों एम्पायर रूलर्स के साथ आती हैं. ओके, सो ही हिमसेल्फ वॉज अ प्रिंस ऑफ अ स्टेट इन सेंट्रल एशिया. हिज फादर डायड. इट वॉज बिलीव दैट ही वॉज हिज फादर अ बिल्डिंग collapsed while he was feeding the pigeons. जिस बिल्डिंग में वो खड़े थे वो बिल्डिंग गिर गई, एंड he died in that accident, his father. Babur was very young at the age of 12 or 13 at that time, and then he was declared as the prince. Uh, he became prince. His early life, most of his in the beginning of his life, he tried to recapture the capital Samarkand, because Samarkand was once his ancestors' capital. He tried a lot. He could not do so. When he was not able to capture Samarkand, then what he did, he captured Kabul. He came to Kabul and he captured Kabul. After capturing and establishing empire in Kabul, he invaded India, and that was on the call of the Daulat Khan. If you remember, जब हमने end of Sultanate of Delhi पढ़ा था, in that हमने last में पढ़ा था कि Ibrahim Lodi was the ruler, and Ibrahim Lodi made a mistake of angering his noble, that was Daulat Khan, and Daulat Khan invited Babur to come to India and overthrow the Sultanate of Ibrahim Lodi. That was the first battle of Babur in India at Panipat, and was a very famous battle because Babur adopted certain war skills, certain strategies in that war, because in number Ibrahim Lodi बहुत ज़्यादा था और बाबर के सोल्जर्स कम थे, लेकिन बाबर ने ऐसी स्ट्रैटेजी और एक ऐसा नया वेपन यूज़ किया उस वॉर के अंदर जिसकी वजह से बाबर इब्राहिम लोदी के अगेंस्ट वो वॉर जीता और विनर रहा, विक्टोरियस रहा, एंड established his empire in India as Mughal Dynasty. I'll explain about this war, the first Panipat war, to you in my next video, but this is about Babur, who was a prince. एक स्टेट था सेंट्रल एशिया का, उसका प्रिंस था. फादर की डेथ के बाद उसने रूल करना शुरू किया. इन द बिगिनिंग समरकंद को रूल किया, कैप्चर भी किया 2 साल के लिए, लेकिन फिर उससे ले लिया गया समरकंद. जब वो he could not do so to capture Samarkand again, then he captured Kabul, established in Kabul, then he came to India, and then he defeated Ibrahim Lodi and declared himself the first Mughal emperor in the region. Okay, 7th class, now moving towards the Babur's victories over India. These are the 3 battles which he fought. The first one was at Panipat in 1526, and that was against Ibrahim Lodi. Okay, I have written down the year, then the place, then the rulers. The first battle was against Ibrahim Lodi at Panipat in 1526. In this battle, Babur was victorious because in this battle, the first battle at Panipat, Babur had 12,000 men. On the other hand, Ibrahim Lodi had great number of soldiers with him, more than 1 lakh, Plus, he had many elephants with him as well. But Babur was victorious because of his clever planning and the use of cannon, because Ibrahim Lodi was not aware of this weapon, cannon. He faced this weapon in the war for the very first time, and his soldiers were not aware of this weapon. So he used this cannon very cleverly, and his planning was also very clever. So he defeated Ibrahim Lodi at Panipat, marched towards Punjab, and in this way he was victorious in the first battle at Panipat. Okay, as you can see here in your book, this was a picture description of the first battle. Babur's 12,000 men, and with his men he made a fort. Okay, and then he put some cannons. In this way you can defend yourself easily. On the other hand, Ibrahim Lodi's army here with elephants, और जब उसने cannon shot किए या attack किया with the soldiers from the backside, in this way he won the war. So his clever planning helped him in winning this war at Panipat. The second battle was against Rana Sanga. He was a very powerful enemy because Rajputs were very powerful at that time, and he attacked Rana Sanga at Kano in 1527. But in this war in 1527 against Rana Sanga, this is the second battle. He used the same method. Babur used the same method, and he was victorious. The third battle of Babur in that was Babur was also victorious. That was in 1529 at Gojra against Afghan rulers of Bengal and Bihar. And in the same manner, Babur was victorious. Babur defeated them, although he could not capture their land, but he defeated them. These were the famous battles, the three famous battles of Babur. The first battle at Panipat, then in 1527 against Rana Sanga at Kano, and in 1529 at Gojra against Afghan rulers of Bengal. In सारी battles के अंदर बाबर ने clever planning की, कैनन का यूज़ किया, अपने ट्रूप्स के हेल्प से वो विक्टोरियस रहा इन सब बैटल्स के अंदर, एंड इन दिस वे ही established his dynasty, which was known as Mughal Dynasty, and he was considered as the founder of the Mughal Dynasty. He could not reorganize, he could not get time to reorganize his kingdom, and because he was most of the time he was fighting with the other rulers, तो उसको time नहीं मिला अपनी kingdom को reorganize करने का. He died soon in 1530. When he died, he left a will. What was his will? I'll tell you in my next video. So this was about Babur, who was the first Mughal king who established the Mughal dynasty in India.